So I got to talk about how I came to stay in Asheville. You guys ever been to Asheville, North Carolina?
Nope.
Well, it's like a really cool town that's in the Smoky Mountains, and it's got a lot of stuff going on. It's Asheville and their street performers. We are going to the drum circle in the park over there.
What a wonderful, wonderful world. And I think to myself, what a wonderful Thank you, Louis Armstrong, for doing this.
You know, it's like,
wonderful.
a lot of people have found out about that town. It's getting very crowded now. Yeah. Okay, because people are moving there. But
Is that where the tail of the dragon is?
the Dragon's a ways off. You can ride out to it, but you're talking, it's quite a wide ride, probably 80 miles or something, I'm guessing.
I used to go to Gatlinburg all the time.
Right, so it's just nice. But anyways, I was just passing through this town, and I met this guy. I mean, I forget where I was going, but I met this guy, and he's got one of those organic farms, and he invites me to come stay on his farm. And I'm like, I'm not going to work on your farm, dude. He says, I got a little building you can use or whatever. He says, that's okay, you don't have to work on my farm, but come on, stay on my farm. So I said, all right, I go out and I stay there, and he gives me this little room, and after a few days, he's got people working there, and he gives them food and everything. After a few days, he starts wanting me to work on his farm. I said, fuck it, I told you, you know, I'm not working on your farm. So I ended up leaving there, but by then, I'd met this guy who had been a speed freak. He's fresh out of rehab, right? And although he's not getting loaded and all that, his mind still ain't right. What he had done was he had borrowed money from his mom. He bought 3 houses, little houses. He bought a new truck, and he ripped, I only saw one of the houses, but he ripped the floor out of that sucker, pulled it apart, and then I think he ran out of money and he ended up in rehab. Okay, so he's fresh out of rehab. He says to me, he says, I've got this little house you can stay in if you want. So I go over there and I'm like, all right, it's right down in town. I mean, I'm just supposed to be passing through this town, right? It's right over there in the middle. So I get in there, and it's got like part of the floor ripped up, but it's got a desk and it's got a chair, and I'm working on doing some computer work or something. I like the town, it's a nice town. And so I move on in there, right? All right, so I'm hanging out, staying in this town, and you know, there's a lot of action and stuff going on. So one night I'm up in one of the bars.
Yeah.
And I sees this girl, she's wearing this wristband. I said, what are you wearing that wristband for? She's sitting next to me. She says, oh, we're going down to stay the night in the parking lot of Chick-fil-A. Anybody who stays the night in Chick-fil-A gets a year's free supply of Chick-fil-A. You guys ever had Chick-fil-A? I'm not a Chick-fil-A fan. To me, it's like, I don't really like deep fried food, and that stuff's chopped and pressed. Anyways, I don't think it's all that great, but my bike's already packed up, and it seems like an adventure to me. So I says, where is it at? So I go down there, and there's all these people staying in the parking lot of this Chick-fil-A. And I set my little tent up there, you know, and I'm sitting talking with these guys, and these guys are like excited that they're going to get a year's supply of Chick-fil-A. And they're like, oh, one guy's telling me, he says, I had a heart attack and I had to have surgery, and now I just eat Chick-fil-A because it's so healthy, and they're going on and on, right? And I'm listening to this, and I'm like, really? So I finally hit the rack. I wake up, and it's the crack of dawn, and we got this guy standing out front, and he's giving this whole talk, this whole spiel about Chick-fil-A, and he says, and you all will get a year's free supply of Chick-fil-A, and people are like, yeah! It's like, I thought it was like at a game show right? You know, they're just, I mean, it was funny. I mean, it was comical. So he gives me this box of cards, 52, where they figure one a week, you get 52 free Chick-fil-A's. I go back to the house I'm staying at. Now, David, the guy who's giving me this house, he's not staying there. He's staying in this town of Hot Springs, which is about, I think, 30 miles out of town, up in the mountains in Hot Springs. And so he's just coming into town in his little truck. So I throw the Chick-fil-A on the table, and I tell him, eat all the Chick-fil-A you want, man. He's like, I ain't eating that crap, right? Like the guy's a speed freak, drug addict, but he's not gonna eat that shit food. He's also a health food freak, right? I'm like, well, there it is if you want it. He finally started running out of money, and he started having to go get the Chick-fil-A's. You could get 3 at a time. We'd get 3 and throw the bag on the table, whoever wants it, because you had to drive over to this place to get it, right? While I was there, I starts going over to Cherokee, the town of Cherokee, you know, and that place is full of Indians. And there's a few Lakota Indians that live there, and I met one, and he invited me to their sweat lodges, and those were the best sweats I ever been to. I started going there every weekend to sweat with the Lakota. I'd cut some wood for them, and they had their ritual. You know, most reservations are in the worst land you can get, but that's not actually a reservation. There's history behind it, and it's in a beautiful place. And so I'd go sweat with them on the weekends, usually on like Saturday night or whenever they had them. So I'm hanging around Asheville, and I'm really enjoying this place, man. And David, he's telling me he's starting to run out of money. So he like doesn't have the money to keep driving back up to Hot Springs in his car. He's running out of gas money. So he tells me, he says, I got this motorhome up there, and I'd like to bring the motorhome down here and put it in the backyard of that little house that I'm staying in, so he could hook it up and have a bathroom. You know, the place didn't have running water or nothing, but I didn't need that because I don't have that anyway. I'm used to not having that. So I says, well, I'll drive your motorhome. He says, I need somebody to drive it. I said, I'll drive your motorhome down here. So he goes, okay. So finally, I'll tell you guys something. I stayed in that place for 6 weeks. After a month, I was ready to leave. I was time to leave. And I rode out of town like 20 or 30 miles. I said, I'm not done with this town. I turned around and rode back. It's wonderful to have the freedom to be able to stay in whatever town you want, you know, to just run across something and stay in it. But anyways, I'm back in town, and it is getting time to leave. And I tells David, I says, David, you want to get that motorhome? Now's the time, man, because I'm leaving town. He says, all right. So we get in his truck. This is where it gets interesting. We get in his truck to drive up to Hot Springs, which is up in the mountains. It's up higher into the mountains. And on the way out there, he's telling me about this motorhome. He bought it, he says he bought it for $500. It's sitting in a field. He ain't never moved it. He ain't never drove it. His girlfriend got it fucking running one time. She worked on the carburetor, got it running. I'm listening to this. I'm like, oh, really? He's telling me this on the way there to get it, right? So, so he had $85 the day before. I knew that. I don't know what he did with the money, but he had $85. So I'm like, all right. So we get up there, and the thing's just like he says. It's sitting in this field, and it's this old motorhome. The inside of it was nice, but it's this old motorhome. And we brought jumper cables and my tools, and I get in it, and I hook the jumper cables up. It's got the engine between the seats, and I give it some starting fluid or something, right, to get it's been sitting forever. And I get it running, and gas just starts pouring out the sides of the carburetor. Gas is running everywhere. And David, he's newly, you know, he's just off all this dope. And he ended up not getting back on that dope either. Anyways, so, but he's still spun in the head, man. He's like, oh my God, we're not gonna drive, we're leaving here. I said, shut the fuck up. So I get my tools. I said, I want to see what I can do. I tighten up the screws on this carburetor. I start it up, and it works. It ain't leaking. So I go and I push the brakes. Well, ain't no brakes. You know, them old RVs, they sit and they don't have no brakes anymore. So I open up the master cylinder. It's empty. I said, go to town, get me some brake fluid, and bring it back, and we're gonna see what I can do with this. So I fill up the master cylinder, and I don't want to bleed the brakes. So I tell him, I don't want to get under it in this field. I tell him, just pump on them brakes for about 20 minutes. So he does. He sits there pumping on. Finally, the brakes come up a little bit. So we get this RV, pull it out onto the, finally I get in there, and I drive it out onto the road, and I hits the brakes, and one of the wheels locks up. They're kind of low. One of the wheels locks up, so I got some brakes, right? Okay, so we go to the gas station. We put 5 gallons of gas in it. It should go 30 miles, you would think. 5 gallons of gas. And I starts going in Hot Springs. It's a long downhill, man. It's up in the mountain. It's a twisty downhill. It's a 3-speed on the column, this thing. You guys remember those? You're old enough to remember that. So I got the thing in low gear. I'm start going down the hill. I push the brakes, and I'm not slowing down. so I'm not picking up speed too bad, but I can't stop, man. And so I'm going down, and it's, you know, it's getting a little hairy. So there's like the field next to me goes up like this, and I figure, well, I pull it into that thing, and I'm hoping I can stop it in this field where it's bumpy, and it starts going up like this, and I can see it's gonna fall over. I can feel it's gonna, so I pull it back on the road. I get down to where there's a hill a little further down like this, right? We're next to this mountain. I pull it over and I drag it along the side of this fucking hill. Oh, and I can't bail out. I'm going down this hill, I can't, because there's no driver's door. You got to get up and walk to the back and jump out the back, right? So like I can't bail out of this fucking thing. I mean, if I can make it to the door and out in time. So I drag it along the side of this hill and it stops. David gets out and he's behind me in his truck and he's just freaking out, man. He's like, oh my God, we're gonna leave it here. You're gonna die. Oh, he's going on and on, man. I'll come back and get it later, he says. He's not. He's gonna lose this thing, right? So I tell him, shut the fuck up. He's like having a woman with me at the time, right? I mean, you know, ah! And I'm like, I says, look, go back up there, get me some more brake fluid. I'm gonna try to bleed these brakes, and if I can get them working, we'll drive it. If not, we'll leave it here. He don't have no money. So I give him some money. He goes up, gets me the brake fluid. He comes back, I bleed the brakes. I'm able to bleed 3 of them. And I get brakes. I got brakes now. I mean, I got real brakes. So I gets back in the RV, I starts driving down this hill, man, and we're going through the mountains, and I come to this place where the thing just dies. And I pull it over and I get it into this turnout, and after checking some things out, I find out it's out of gas. It's out of gas. Just put 5 gallons in, you go 30 miles, for Christ's sake, and you know, in anything, but whatever. So I tell him, go down to the gas station, get some gas. He ain't got no money. So I give him 40 bucks, and you know what I'm thinking? I ain't never gonna see this money again. I'm just giving it to because if he leaves the RV there, he's gonna lose it. This is one of those acts of charity, right? I'm just giving him this fucking, so he goes, he gets me a gas can, brings it back, I put gas in it, I start it up, and I drive it all the way back to Asheville, man, and it's nice. It actually runs pretty good. It's actually a pretty nice RV. When we get back to the house, I go to pull it in the backyard. Now the backyard's sloped like this. And so I tell him, I said, get a couple shovels, and we're gonna dig the side down so I can get it in there level so he can plug it in, live in it, right? So he gets a couple shovels, and he comes back, and you know what he did? He starts digging on the wrong side. And that's when I realized this guy's really spun, right? So I ends up leaving the town, and it's like a year later, I forget. He gets a hold of me. He's never gotten loaded again. Everything is, you know, he's still, and he thanks me for being there. He told me, he said it would have been a lot harder without me. I got a little video of him because I ran into him back there again this year. And he sends me my money back, sent me back my money. And so, but I liked Asheville. I started coming back to the town here and there when I was in that area because it's, you know, it's the weather's good. It's this little nice, really bitch, and they got the drum circle every Friday night. They got the street performers, things going on. I just really love the little town. This is the guy's motorhome I dragged along the wall.
I would not be alive if it wasn't for this man right here. I'm convinced right there. This man saved my fucking life.
Yeah, you were a pretty big mess when I met you there, David.
What's that?
You were a pretty big mess when we met.
Oh, I was a fucking mess.
Yeah, right on.
I think Dave's earning himself a new name. RV Dave.
Here we are at this big old bike night.
Big old.
Oh, use.
Man, last month.
That would be a brakeless RV.
They had all that roped off over there and they're doing fucking racing and shit.
Little mini bike race.
Mini bike race.
It's just a bike night. Everybody's kind of left.
I think
What's up, Scotty? They want to do a rider profile on you in the magazine you should go talk to.
Which magazine?
Blue Ridge Motorcycle. I told him, I said, this guy's a legend. You need to talk to him. He's the next rider profile.
Did they really say anything about it? No.
That's what I told the editor, or the publisher. He was saying, looking at your bike, I said, you want to write a profile? I said, this is the guy to talk to.
Hey guys, I'm looking at moving further away from motorcycle rally work and into the making of videos and writing as a full-time job. This will bring a whole lot more freedom to move around the country or countries, because I won't have to be in any particular place or state at any given time to work one of these rallies. I'm hoping to be able to put enough time into this to bring the viewer along for at least a good portion of the trip, and maybe give a glimpse into what it's really like in this full-time gypsy life world. Problem is, YouTube doesn't really pay that much money, and this is going to require support from my viewers. And to that end, I'm putting a donate button in the drop box below for all those who would like to support and help be part of the making of these videos in this endeavor. So thank you very much, guys.